What's up, guys? So, just hanging out at the house today, and wanted to shoot a quick video. I've been tinkering around with my sound a little bit, and just figured I'd make a video about it, just kind of explaining some of the things that I did, some of the things that you can do if you're using the Helix and you're using any of the TONEFACTOR patches, or even if you had David Hislop's patch, or even like a Kenyon Reed patch or whatever, and you're just not you're happy with it, but there's some things that you don't like about it. This is how you change those things, and this is how I've tinkered around and made the sound mine versus what they hear and what they think sounds good, and it all sounds good. But I'll just explain a couple of the things that I was having a problem with. So one of the things that David Hislop does, and he explains it in his video of his Helix presets, is that he has changed parameters on everything. So like if you click on a drive, the parameters in the EQ blocks change for the amps, and they compress and do all these sorts of things. And like it is great and it sounds great, but for me, there's some things with like the overdrives and stuff that I didn't like. And when you go to change those things out, it messes up the whole thing. So like he uses a specific drive. I'm not going to say what it is because I don't want to give any away of his intellectual property, but I like the sound of other drives, and specifically other drives in the Helix. And the one that he had just doesn't suit my ear that well. And so what I did was I bought some of his amp packages that are on TONEFACTOR that they've designed. And so two amps that I really have loved for a long time are the Matchless DC30 or whatever it's called, and the Benson Chimera. And I've been running the Benson for a long time. Even with the HX Stomp, I was running the Benson. And when I got the Helix, I immediately bought it and plugged it in the place of his ProSonic setting on there. But just with all the parameters and stuff, it's just a little different. And the drives I didn't like. So what I did, if you buy those amp packages, the parameters and stuff aren't set on there. So I think he has a drive block in there, but it's pretty much like you have your clean tone, your drive tone, a boost tone, a lead tone, and then you have like different effects. And the way that I've laid it out in snapshot mode is clean, drive, boost, lead, pog lead, and then I have a spring clean, spring drive, and then like a rock and roll setting. Just really big overdrive, big room sound. And so the cool thing about when you set it up that way is there's no parameters, so you can kind of tinker and get the sound that you like. And so the drives that I thought mimicked the Kilt overdrive better than what he was using in there in my ear. Now obviously it sounds one way to one person and another way to somebody else, so this is, in my opinion, this is what I think sounds better for me. Is I'm using a Klon setting on there that mimics the Kilt. And so let me just give you the tone of my amp first, and just to kind of explain some of the things that are going on in this preset. Is I have the amps on, and then I have like the EQ blocks and the compression settings that he was using on there. And then I have I have it set up to where there is, I'm trying to see if they're on or not. Okay. So this should be the clean setting. So this has a room reverb, and my like first stage cloud reverb is what it would be mimicking, and then some delay. So I just like the room sound. Here would just be, this is just the amp with no overdrive, and then the room reverb stays on, and I kick on a spring reverb. So I added a couple different reverbs that weren't automatically in. So it kind of makes it sound like you're sitting in a room to me. That's what I'm hearing. I really, that it's tinkered to my ear. I think it sounds good. So let's kick on a little bit of drive. So I have a con setting in here that mimics the kilt, in my opinion. So this would be like the first stage drive. So, really dirty. The thing that I like about the Matchless and the Benson amps is like they can dirt up really good, but they sound clean. And I liked how I could move the reverbs around in this patch to where I was getting a good dry signal, and it wasn't just oversaturating it with the reverb. And then here would be like my second stage drive. So this would be like a kilt with a boost option. So here's the stage one. Here's with the boost. So again, I'm on the spring reverb setting. This would sound for the drive setting with the cloud reverb and the delays and stuff. This is what this would sound like. Kicking on that boost. So just a sound that I really liked. And then the lead tone, which is just pushing the amps a little bit, the setting that they have it on there is the amp gain goes up. So here's the boost. Here's the amp gain added. So, really cool. And I have some different variations of drives on there. So, I have like a clon setting, which mimics the kilt to me. I actually had a kilt B2, and this is how I ran it. I kind of plugged it up to an amp in my house and just kind of tinkered with it and listened to it. Tried to get the sound as close to what I like it at. So, the kilt is kind of like my main drive. But I have an option on here for so there's without any reverb or delay. I have the option on here for a tube screamer as well, though, to kind of use for my single cools. I know this isn't a single cool, but I have a PRS that has a P90 in the neck, and so I really like it for that. So this would be, here's the kilt versus the tube screamer. So a little bit more low end. Here's the kilt, tube screamer. Just a little bit more low end. A little bit, but like it's just tamed. And so, and that sounds really good with the kilt boost as well. So I can stack those two. with like some, if I were to add a Tube Screamer kilt duo on with reverb and stuff, that's what it would sound like. So if that's your flavor, then you can have it that. I really love just kind of the just that kind of clon kilt sound that I've developed, and so that's kind of how it sounds. If I add some pog in there, it gets pretty cool too. You could really make a solo like that stand out if you add. One of the effects that I used on my big pedal board before I got rid of it was I had 3 cloud settings, a small one, medium, and a big one. And when I really wanted just to dial the reverb up and like really stand out in the mix, I would crank it to my 3rd cloud stage. And so what I did was I added another block in here with more of the reverb. So I can click it on, and you go from something like, here would be like my first drive stage with the normal reverb. You hear it? Versus with the extra. Without it. With it. So you can definitely hear a difference. That was just one of the things I added. And then another thing that I added was the ability to kick on a vibrato. So works good on stuff like crossbeam magnified. Stuff like that. And when you start adding in big reverbs and some drives, it sounds really good too. And then if you really wanted to like spank into a big like version of solo or like a lead line like that. So you have the option to add a lot of really cool stuff. And that's just kind of how I set it up with this version of my board. Getting to change the amps out and not have all those parameters really helps me. Just feel I feel like it's my own. Like I feel like I set it up to sound like what I was running before. And I'm just confident that like that's what I like to hear in my ears, which is, you know, ultimately you can sound like whoever you want to, and you can buy all these patches, but sometimes I just don't like, they sound really good, but they're just not you. And so this is just a way you can make it sound like you. And so here would be kind of like some pog added on. So if you take the pog and you put on a big washy verb and some boost, you can get a solo like. Stuff like that. So you can really just make it huge, make it sound really good. And so, and it works for me. What was beneficial to me about it is it works with both of, like, multiple guitars. So, like, for example, I can plug in my baritone, which, if you haven't seen, I put a video up. It wasn't the greatest sound quality now that I'm going back and listening to it, but it's my in-ear mix from this past week. And I actually got to play the baritone, making sure I'm in tune for you guys. I don't want to sound like garbage. But on the single coils, it sounds really good as well. I've actually got overdrives and stuff still on. So that's the spring. If you click on like my clean setting, which is just some cloud, and you can lull people to sleep with this baritone, man. Especially if you kick on a big verb. Kick on some overdrive. You can, if you're into that kind of chugging stuff, I'm not very good at it. But you can hear, I mean, it sounds really good even with the single coils, which I know Hislop kind of sent when you have when you buy his presets, he sends you both the single coil patch and the humbucker patch. Man, isn't this thing awesome? I mean, I know a lot of people are getting them nowadays, and especially they're getting this version. But these guitars are pretty, and they're really just fun to play. But there you have it. If you have any questions, just holler at me. Comment, subscribe, whatever you need to do. But hopefully this is helpful. Hopefully you learned something. I am using pretty much everything that he has provided. He is in David Hislop and ToneFactor, whoever's running sound there. I know Kenyon has a lot of say and a lot of hands in on that, but I bought everything from them. I've changed some drives around and took out the parameters, and that's pretty much it. So if that's something that you need for you, there you go. That's how you do it. And so I hope y'all are having a good week coming into the weekend. I guess we're in the weekend now, Saturday. So hopefully everything's going good. You're getting prepped for Sunday. I'm going to quit rambling. Y'all just comment or message me if you have any questions. We'll see ya.